Hello and welcome to another episode of Hair Bear Reads Reddit. And if you found your way to my cozy little corner of the internet, and you like to hear a story or two, kick back and relax, have a listen, have a laugh, take your shoes off and set a spell. Now that it's October and we're officially in the spooky season, I thought we'd get into the spirit by looking through this thread on r/askreddit. What is your most disturbing, scary, or creepy real story? Serious replies only. Full disclosure, this is an archived thread from about 10 years ago, so we've got some classics here. Our first story is from a deleted account. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I had been driving about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road into the grass, behind some bushes, to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and now it was 12:40. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now at the time, I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched the couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. Fuck that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a car parked off to the side of the road, with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, Hey you, get the fuck out of your car, now!" I noped the fuck out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story? Don't fucking sleep on the side of a deserted road. Now with this story, I'm trying to link the two aspects of it in my head, where obviously he pulls over on the side of the road to have a bit of a nap because he was tired, keeps hearing scratching on the side of the car, waking him up, which is, classic urban legend. He even alludes to that himself later on. And then we find out that there's someone apparently trying to carjack people along that particular stretch of road. So my question is, how are those two things connected? And there's a reply to this comment which might shed some light on it by 45 minutes of Roadhead, who says, I just posted a story about my boyfriend sleeping on the side of the highway for the same reason, too tired to safely drive. He woke up to 20 people banging on his windows and yelling at him to wake up and leave. Then he woke. He was dreaming it, but he's always wondered if someone was trying to get him to leave for some reason. So maybe that's the answer to this story. Perhaps whatever was scratching on the side of his car was some benevolent force or sympathetic spirit that was trying to warn him that he was in danger. What do you think? Leave a comment and let me know. Our next story is from REU Serious. A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride around midnight with a friend. We went our separate ways at the end of the evening, and I had about 2 blocks to ride back by myself. Because of construction, I had to ride on the sidewalk, but the streets were dead, and it wasn't a problem until right where I was about to turn left onto my street. There was this man walking by himself, maybe 40s, a little scruffy but not homeless. The sidewalk was narrow, and I didn't want to freak him out, so when I got about 6 feet behind him, I said, "Hey, behind you." And he turned around and gave me this super angry look. I turned down my street, and he started to follow me, literally screaming about how I was a fucking cunt and he was going to kill me and all that. I live right off the corner, and I didn't want him to figure that out, so I decided to do another loop around the block. That's not the scary part. The scary part is, when I looped back around and looked down the street, I saw him standing on my fucking front stoop, staring out at the street like the motherfucker knew I lived there. He saw me ride by again, but he didn't say anything. I ended up going back to the friends, but my bike got stolen from the alleyway by the house 2 days later. Edit. The guy in question was definitely not actually homeless. We have a large population of mentally ill in that area, unfortunately, downtown of a medium-sized city. So if I didn't think the sidewalk was too narrow to pass, otherwise I wouldn't have disturbed him. Half the scary part was that he looked pretty much completely normal from my area. That being said, I ended up texting my mom and she made the decision not to notify law enforcement until my bike was stolen. The thing about this story for me isn't that he was standing on the stoop when OP looped back around. That could just be a coincidence. But the fact that he was chasing after this person on a bike, shouting threats and insults, and then saw him again and just let him go by. That's the odd thing to me. So perhaps this person was mentally ill. Who knows? But we have a reply in the comments that I totally agree with from Kermit/Batman, who says, I know this is serious, so this might be deleted. Just once though, wouldn't it be nice if you see a strange man in the night, he lifts his hood back, then screams, "You look cold! I'm gonna brew you a cup of cocoa!" Next we have one from Can You Say Throwaway 19, who says, my house sits farther back in the lot than most of the other houses. It is a strange layout as well. The sidewalk runs the length of the living room and ends at the front porch, which lets into the living room. Large windows that do not open allow great light to get into the living room, but at the cost of no privacy. The rest of my family was on vacation, and having the house to myself, I decided I would get smashed. Well, I pass out on the couch in the living room at about 9 when I realized I was too scared to walk back to my room. The couch is right underneath these big windows. I woke up suddenly, not knowing why. I had a severe case of the chills and could not figure out why. Then the banging started. It came from right above me. I did not move, but I opened my eyes and looked up at the window. Someone was standing there, pounding on the glass. Without moving, I looked at the cable box. It was around 3 a.m. The banging continues. Then it stopped suddenly, but I still did not move. Suddenly it commences again, coming from 2 different directions now. Someone is banging on the window and another person is banging on the front door. They kept doing it, would not go away. Finally, after about 40 minutes, they quit. It was the most terrifying event I can recall at the moment. It made me a nervous wreck after that. I called a friend the next day to see if he would come over and stay for the rest of the week, and his response was, "What the fuck for? So that we can both be murdered in our sleep? Thanks a lot, asshole." Some real emotional support from the friend there, but I have to admit they're not wrong. Why should they both be put in danger? Why doesn't the OP go sleep somewhere else? That would make a hell of a lot more sense to me. And 40 minutes though, that's a long time to be banging on someone's door to just try to spook them. That's strange. And yes, I think that this person would have been well within their rights to call the police, and I got to imagine that they would have arrived before they left if they were there for 40 minutes. So we should have time for one more. We'll do this one from a deleted account. I was 17 and had just gotten my license. Back in high school, my friends and I had made it a mission to find abandoned houses to throw parties in. We had a few good candidates, but the motherlode was this house I would pass on my way home from work. It was an undeveloped shell of a huge home with a large property in the back. I had told one of my friends about it, and one day before we went to see a movie, I took him to the house. It was about dusk in summer, so I had my headlights on. I pulled into the front of the house, and we were there for like 10 seconds tops before we pulled back out onto the main road. A minute later, this big truck pulls up behind us with its high beams on and riding our ass. My friend and I took note of it, but paid no mind as we headed back to the main road. At the light, I turned right, but the truck cut through the gas station in the corner and blocked us off. Out of the truck comes this big hulk of a man, and my friend and I are shitting our pants. He raps on the window, and I roll it down. Now, the really freaky part is that this is a busy road, and now there was no one in sight. He asked us what we were doing at the house, and I quickly lied and said we were making a U-turn. He stares at us for a few seconds, smiles, and sends us on our way. To this day, the house remains unfinished, and I'm convinced it's a drug operation of some sort. TLDR, don't go into abandoned houses, man. Yes, Aside from any supernatural reasons to avoid abandoned houses, there are plenty of mundane ones, and this is a prime candidate. But has anything like this ever happened to you? Have you ever had something send chills down your spine or heard bumps in the night? If you have a story, leave it in the comments to share it with us. And if you like this video, make sure to slap a paw on the like and subscribe buttons. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, be good, and bear up.